Entry Log 1. First Contact Protocol active. Log of Field Commander Rakhan Larkhan. First Order of House Rakanta. Stardate A13. Y759. Cycle 319 of 600. Per Standard Protocol. A brief description of mission and crew follows before report. Skip to Section 2 if needed. It was essentially a normal trip. We had just finished full negotiations with a species of quadrupedal sapients known as the Kanjani nativity. See log number 518 for full report. En route to a new star system. Our target was, as usual, to scout the system for potential resources, colonization sites, habitable worlds, asteroid dangers, and if possible, local life signs. More sapients were always welcome. Our delegation consisted of 6 species. A total of 235 ship crew with a company of 50 Marines as per standard protocol. Canari, Polarician, Virgosian, Dorogati, Vakari, and Sukeski. As per protocol, a brief description of each species follows. Canari Federal Foundation species. 2 meters tall, blue skin pigment, thin, unsuited to combat, herbivorous. Polarician large quadrupedal, furry beast. Slow-moving but extremely mechanically adept, 1.1 meters tall on hind legs, rare omnivores. Virgosian Federation Foundation species, vermin-like furry, half-meter tall at full stature, fast-moving and adept at stealth or observation. Carnivorous predators. Dorogati Federation Foundation species, fur-covered, 1 meter tall on average, quadrupedal with exoskeletal suits, adapted to heavy combat and make up majority of marine force. Switch between bipedal or quadrupedal motion during operations as needed. Vakari 1 meter tall, herbivorous bipeds. Insectoid species known for its gestalt mind. Primary ship crew for shipboard functions, including equipment maintenance. Sukeski 1.2 meter tall scaled reptilians. Heavily augmented for combat operations and military. Obligate carnivores form primary security and military response. Log begins. The FTL bubble collapsed, we slowed down and switched to sublight engines on the morning of Cycle 319, and began a sweep scan of the local area. 9 planets in total, counting a small dwarf orbiting the outer rim. But even from basic scans, something was seriously off about this system. It had an almost sinister feeling about it. As if we were not supposed to be here. As if something here had gone horribly wrong. Something in this system was fucked with and really should not have been fucked with. Scans and drones were conducted over the course of the next 9 days. Full basic scans of each area in the star system. With one exception, the 3rd planet from the star producing readings so bizarre, we decided to do it last. Standard procedure. If we hadn't been contacted by now, there was nothing to contact us back. The broad scans were well known for alerting locals to our presence anyway. It was what they were really designed to do. Protocol was to simply hold back when encountering confusing or anomalous signals and get as much data as possible, then come back later. First planet. Small planet that had been blasted by local sun. Inhospitable, boiling atmosphere and low gravity. Useful for a solar energy farm or a strip mine. Second planet. Highly toxic, highly dangerous atmosphere, 0 habitability due to solar proximity. Extremely rich in valuable materials, marked for strip mining. Third planet, ignore for now, detailed scans come later. Too many anomalous or abnormal readings, but scans indicate a tectonically active continental world. Fourth planet, barren, inhospitable world with limited atmosphere and no vegetation. Useful for terraforming experiments or mining operations. Dead core with no volcanic activity. Fifth planet. Largest gas giant in system. Multiple rings flush with staggering quantities of rich resources. Multiple secondary bodies including moons and large asteroids. Rich in valuable materials. Marked for exploitation. Sixth planet. Gas giant marginally smaller than fifth. Rich in gases essential to life and operations on board Chuaniki ships and stations. Many moons and secondary bodies rich in resources. Marked for exploitation. Seventh planet, small gas giant, primarily ice-based, hydrogen primarily useful as starship fuel. Many moons and secondary bodies very useful for mining. Marked for exploitation. 8th planet. Gas giant, hydrogen and helium-based atmosphere in constant flux between liquid and gas. Hyperdense compared to Planet 7. Minor anomalies discovered with rotational axis. 9th planet. Rocky frozen dwarf world with 2 orbiting planetary bodies. A host of interesting surface features and a staggeringly long orbital period. Useful as star system staging area. Log entry 2. Cycle 322 of 600. Detailed scans and investigations of each planet are revealing staggering impossibilities that defy all logic, reason, and physics. We have taken a chance and named each planet the first name that came to us as we worked. In order they are Mercury, Venus, Terra, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Addendum. We later found data confirming that these names were actually correct, and it was not just a strange coincidence. See Addendum 5. Mercury was a boiling, frothing mess of bubbling molten metal. Not abnormal considering its proximity to its host star, but the magmatic formations were defying logic. Every few hours we would observe a magma river spontaneously lift itself off the ground, the entire river of magma, and then slowly hover away to another area, then splash itself down, causing other rivers and magma lakes to bubble and wave over each other. This was a regular occurrence as well, so we recorded it multiple times, each time acquiring some very anomalous readings. Venus was a strange, hazy planet that was a strange, sickly shade of green. It had 2 permanent electric storms on its polar regions, and an extremely toxic atmosphere that randomly exploded. All across the planet's surface, massive static discharges would erupt, blanketing the green world in a sheet of blue, purple, or white lightning. On several occasions, evasive maneuvers had to be engaged when we apparently got too close for our scans and received discharges of electromagnetic energy. Mars, a barren and rocky terrestrial world roughly the size of Terra. Atmosphere saturated in dust storms. Its sand and rocky formations changing color once every few days. Gray, blue, green, purple, black, red, and silver. No explanation for the random color changes, and dust storms change color as they pass through these affected areas. Jupiter was the largest body in the star system and the most tempestuous. It would spin its solar axis once every 24 hours, effectively going upside down once a day. Thousands of storms would appear, stay for anywhere from a few minutes to a few days, then vanish without a trace. Planetary atmosphere should have been colored brown. It was in fact a bright pink color. Sensors collected data indicating random strange gravitational formations appearing in each of its thousands of storms. Saturn was a dark purple color around its equator, then changed to a peculiar silver or white around its polar regions. It was moving rotationally on all of its axes at any time during its orbit, as if it was a ball tumbling down a hill. Its rings would spontaneously change sizes or shape depending on the time of day, and various changes in its gaseous makeup were taking place at random intervals, with hydrogen-based substances suddenly changing to sulfuric or carbon-based compounds. Uranus was entirely a pure blinding white. Planetary temperatures would fluctuate wildly in extremely localized areas, reaching tens of thousands of degrees in one spot, then just next to that spot barely a few hundred meters away reach tens of thousands of degrees below. The planet also had a strange blue ring, inside of which was a purple, that traveled around the planet's surface. It looked like the planet was a bloodshot eyeball. Scans indicated it had rings. Those rings were missing. Neptune was something altogether different. The planet's surface had turned a horrifying shade of dark scarlet red. Emanating from its poles were streaks or scars of black or pink cloud formations that moved from South Pole to North Pole. Rings were saturated in anomalous formations of electrostatic charge, each asteroid or meteorite constantly carrying an electric charge between each other. On occasion, this electrostatic buildup would reach critical mass, and the resulting lightning bolt would strike one of the planet's moons with an electric charge equivalent to trillions of volts. Pluto, seemingly the only normal planet in the solar system with one anomalous formation detected in the form of strange gravitational anomalies that would randomly appear, pick up various objects such as rocks or ice sheets, tumble them about, then drop them. Addendum, during our sweep of Pluto S2 orbiting asteroids, the system's star suddenly changed color to a bright, radiation-blasting green for exactly 2 minutes and 47 seconds, then returned to its normal yellow color. Sensor apparatus was disabled during this period. Log entry 3. Cycle 367 of 600. We finally completed detailed as we could get considering how fucky-wucky everything in this system was. Our scans of surrounding planets and got to start work on the third planet Terra. We found thousands of satellites, all derelict, in orbit of this planet and spent several days clearing the wreckage and debris before we could even get any real scans. 37 of these satellites were still functioning, and we quickly tapped into their systems with minimal resistance and began recording any data we could. These were satellites that let the people who owned them find their way, called GPS or Global Positioning System satellites. Ingenious. Log entry 4. Cycle 370. After clearing the debris and detritus orbiting the system, we detected a larger satellite orbiting the planet. A direct inspection revealed it was a barely functioning but still active orbital research station. A boarding team was dispatched. 7 corpses were recovered, along with reel upon reel of scientific data from the databanks that were active. Each of the 7 specimens had died the same way: lack of oxygen and life support failures. We identified the species as mammalian, omnivorous, or predatory carnivores judging by the eyes. A high-gravity home world of Terra had made them heavily muscled and with bone densities twice that of the Dorigati. We catalogued, dissected, then secured the bodies for burial. See Addendum 7 for details of this dissection. All members catalogued were adults by all accounts. The species was named Homo sapiens sapiens, or colloquially human or humanity. Ape-like omnivores that essentially evolved as sentients that hunted other sentients. An extremely terrifying prospect. Log entry 5. Cycle 381. Took a lot longer to sift through the data we found, but by Kalara's tits this planet is fucked. More fucked than fucked could have ever fucked in the history of being fucked. Excuse my language and terminology, but by the gods this world is 7 different kinds of strange. We have identified and mapped 5 different continents. Temperatures are inconsistent. A primarily nitrogen/oxygen-based atmosphere with precipitation, windstorms, electromagnetism, and a strong magnetic field. If this planet wasn't so fucked, it would be indistinguishable from our home world of Kalari's Prime. We used and collated the data from the station in orbit, various remaining satellites and their databanks, and various other methods. See Addendum 8, and managed to collate some information and general geological data. Continent 1, North America. Characterized by a mind-shattering tectonic even in its recent history. The entire continent from coast to coast is saturated in active volcanoes that intersect a permanent scarring pattern of fractures, ruptures, and fissures. They change constantly, closing, then opening new fissures in different directions, as if the continent was breathing. Continent 2, South America. Primarily jungle-based mountainous area categorized by toxic swamps, poisonous storms, and massive sinkholes that appear and disappear, swallowing kilometer-diameter portions of land, then suddenly pop back up, forming new hills or mountain ranges. Continent 3, Africa. Barren, forgotten desert landscape of sand. Sand and only more sand, where temperatures fluctuate constantly. From slightly cold to slightly warm, then hot enough to melt silicate to glass, then flash freeze it, all within the space of around 10 minutes in random pockets in random places. Only for this freshly made glass to be swallowed up by the sand. Continent 4, Australia. Characterized by a frozen wasteland of snow, ice, and sleet. Temperatures can reach as low as -200. Storms appear once every week, blanketing the continent in a fresh sheet of ice. Strange anomalies of unknown nature form small points where storms refuse to go, creating oasis-like patches of land where there is no snow and temperatures actually livable. Continent 5, Asia or Eurasia. Not sure which name to use, so we shall simply call it Asia. Starting from the coastal areas, we see fissures of tectonic nature, each seemingly on fire. Random craters, either from detonations or asteroid impacts, most of which are small, a few of which are a kilometer at most in diameter. Inside the epicenter of each of these craters is a geyser or volcano of acid or steam, appearing from apparently nowhere, flooding the crater with a magma or acid pool. Further inland are spires, perfectly cylindrical poles shooting out of the ground, some barely a few centimeters high but meters wide, others thinner than straw but over a kilometer high, in concentrations of thousands. Other areas have strange crystal formations growing from the ground, poking out of buildings, seemingly growing from the ground. They each possessed a color: pink, red, blue, black, white, red, yellow, and purple, and each one had its own eerie glow. Getting further to what we considered to be the epicenter of this anomaly, our sensor arrays went insane with the readings. Random gravitational anomalies, strange power signatures, peculiar life sign readings, strange heat phenomena, abnormal biological readings indicating pools of living acid. Life signs of thousands of creatures who by basic scans could not possibly exist by the laws of biology. Psionic fluctuations of lethal proportions scattered around specific locations. Log Entry 6. Cycle 402. We sent a drone down to this location. We called it Elite Drone or Life Evaluation or Examination Trooper Drone, and began scan as what we could surmise was the start of this place. The first thing we recorded was a broadcast made by an automated speaker system. Attention! You are approaching the secured perimeter of an ecological disaster zone. Illicit crossing of the perimeter is a criminal act. Any attempt to penetrate the secured zone will be punished by any means necessary. Patrols have the right to shoot on sight. The zone poses mortal danger. We are here to protect you from the zone, not the zone from you. This drone was small, say maybe the size of a large ball you would use to engage in sporting activities like kicking. It floated along the ground with a series of small air thrusters to keep it aloft and had maneuverability enough to get around, fit in small places and escape any danger. It also had a small speaker and microphone so we could talk to anyone. If we found them, the drone began its journey, going through a military checkpoint blasting the warning message. Corpses were strewn everywhere, in various states of decay and composition, some of which were still fresh as if they died moments ago or simply rotting skeletons stripped bare and bleached by the sun. Projectile weapons, some of which contained anomalous readings, littered the ground in all directions. Thousands of spent ammunition casings were scattered everywhere. I was in control of this drone, my headset hooked up to it, so my voice echoed through the speaker. By the goddess! What in Oblivion's Gate happened to this place? I turned the drone left to right, scanning each corpse. All human, all in varying states of decay. Some scans looked like pieces of humans, rib cages and bones splattered against walls by massive impacts and devastating explosions. Or implosions. The ground saturated in scarlet red blood. Scans indicated some of it wasn't human. Still in control of the drone, I moved hastily, wanting to get away from the carnage. Absolute, stomach-churning carnage. To the left, a few hundred meters away, was a small village. Every building or structure was in a state of decay or patchwork repair. Some buildings gutted or simply burned out, with other stronger brick and mortar structures still standing, only with damaged or no roofs. Looking further forward, we discovered an entrance to some kind of tunnel or bunker behind the village, slightly off to one side. The drone's flashlight turned on and I moved forward downstairs. Using the manipulator arm, I opened a door, only to be met with a hail of gunfire. I panicked and screamed, "Don't shoot! Don't shoot! Friend! Friend! Peace! Peace!" as I hastily retreated from the bunker and hid behind a tree. Slowly, a bipedal figure appeared from the bunker, still brandishing his firearm. I repeated, "Please don't shoot. Y come in peace. Peace. Please." I was lucky the drone had built-in shields calibrated to the locals' weapons, else the drone would have been destroyed. Slowly, cautiously, the figure appeared out of the bunker. It was definitely human, clad in a protective carbon-based polymaterial suit of sorts, wearing a mask we assumed to be a protective respirator of sorts. It was white or light gray in color with various darker gray patches all over it. Tan-colored pads of thick leather on the knees, shoulders, and elbows. The torso was covered by a leather vest of sorts fitted with plating and chainmail underneath. Heavy steel-toed boots thumped with every step as it approached. It stepped forward with an extreme caution. "What the fuck are you? What kind of mutant speaks? Or hovers?" It spoke Sarian? It spoke the universal galactic standard language? Well, this would make it easier then, I guess. We are not a mutant. Not by your standards. I turned the drone's light off. In my panic, I probably forgot to turn it off, blinding him. Once he saw it was a drone, he immediately lowered his weapon. What the hell is going on here? What has the monolith sent me this time? Monolith? What is a monolith? And where is everyone? What is this place? It was at this moment I noticed a patch, an identifying mark on his uniform on the right arm. It was in the shape of a shield, a cyan blue outline with a yellow banner and background. The image or shadowy framed portrait of a human with atomic symbols around its head, and in the banner at the bottom, the word monolith carefully stitched into it with blue thread. Welcome to Chernobyl.